Would you like to learn how to convert a big plant like this one from soil to leca? Find out how in this video. Hello, Nora the Leca Queen here. Today I'll be showing you how I convert my Philodendron Burle Marx variegata, this gorgeous beauty here, who is still living in soil, to leca. I also have with me another gorgeous, glorious philodendron. This is a Philodendron Billietiae, Philodendron Billietiae, Philodendron, whatever the heck you want to call it. But she is a gorgeous philodendron, quite a big plant as well. I will be converting that from soil to leca. You all know that I can convert a tiny plant from soil to leca any day of the week, and I know you can too. But today I'm going to show you how I convert really large plants from soil to leca. How is that any different, you might ask? Well, with the larger plants, you definitely want to do the long method. You're probably not whacking the plant directly into leca unless it's something like a ZZ plant. But for all other plants, I would highly recommend putting that through the long method. And if you're not sure what I mean when I say the long method, just click on the link above and that'll take you straight through to a video where I do a whole thing on what the long method is and what you can use for the long method. So for these two glorious babies that I've got here, I will be using the long method. I'll take the plants out of the soil, put them in my special sauce, and my special sauce is a combination of Clonix clone solution, which aids in rooting and feeds the plant, and root zone, which helps with root health. Now, special sauce. Do you need to have root zone in your special sauce? No, you do not. Root zone is not yet publicly available, so you can't find it anywhere. Don't go looking for it, you won't find it. And when it does become available, I will let you know. But you can use your Clonix clone solution only. You don't need the root zone or any other solution that's going to help the plant root and feed the plant while it's rooting will do. So you don't have to be stuck to these particular products. But in my practice, I use my special sauce, which is a combination of the two things. So I'll bring you down and we'll get started. I'm going to dump my soil onto that. And because I'm dealing with soil, I will put my gloves on because I don't want to get my hands very dirty and I don't like to have dirt under my nails. So I'll do that. And we will start with the Burle Marx. So I'm just going to take that out of that pot. Might need to give that a squeeze. This is a very, very lovely chunky mix in this. So if I was into soil, this is a pretty good mix. I would highly recommend this mix. So look at that. There is huge perlite in that, just really helping with the drainage. That's really big, coarse perlite. It's got large chunks of bark in there, and that potting mix is just premium. I could bet you the seller of this plant actually mixes their own potting mix, because potting mix does not come looking like this from the store. Look at that. It's fabulous. So that's my plant. I'll just take off as many of those perlite and bark bits as I can. That's what that looks like. It looks absolutely fabulous, absolutely magnificent. I'll put that to the side and I'll grab my Billietiae. This one's in a smaller pot. This plant is just really wayward. It's just going every which way and it's quite root bound. That just won't budge. The seller did say to repot it anyway, so. Gosh. Oh, come out! Woo! Goodness. I know why. Look at that. That root has gone in and out, and that will not budge because of that. I need to find where that's gone. I might just have to cut it. That root that I'm tugging on here is this one up here. So it's got, oh, there we go. That's it. That's what that looks like. Lovely, lovely chunky mix. Take most of that out. And that's what these roots look like. Fantastic. I've got my 2 plants out of the pots. I will take these outside, go and give them a nice good wash. And while I'm doing that, I'll wash off the leaves as well. And when they're all nice and clean, I'll come back and show them to you. See you in a bit. I'm back from outside, and that is what my plants look like. The roots are absolutely glorious. I've washed off those leaves and they are just ready to go to the next stage. I'll bring you down so we can take a look at those roots closer. These are the roots of my Burle Marx. They're looking nice and clean, but I just want to clip off some of the bits that, oh, hang on. See, these ones here that have these dark discolorations, that really, it's probably just as a result of the potting mix. I'm gonna clip those off. I want to start with a nice clean slate because I do not want to lose this mama. There's plenty of roots to keep the plant alive. So I'm not worried about taking too much of that off. That is what the roots now look like. Nice and white and clean. I'll clean my scissors off and do the same with my Billietiae. It's the same thing here. Just get rid of the weird looking roots. Anything that looks a bit sus has got to go. That is what the roots of my plant now look like. I'm going to grab my propagation jar and I will put my plant in my jar. So just making sure all the roots are settled in there. Try and see if I can fit this big mama in this jar. That will be quite a challenge. I've now got my special sauce and I will top up these jars with that. This is my Philodendron Burle Marx, and that is now living in my special sauce in that propagation jar. And that is my other plant in the propagation jar with all the roots settled in there with the special sauce. So I will now put these plants on my heat mat, keep them nice and warm, and I will change this special sauce every 3 days. Yes, I'm really punishing myself with this one. Normally I'd just leave it till about a week or so, but I'll change the solution every 3 days because I really want to get these plants going quickly, get those roots going quickly, so we can get to the next stage and pot up these plants in Leca. So I'll give you an update in a number of weeks. The next time we see these plants, they're going to have developed their water roots and they will be ready to be put into Leca. If you love this video, if you found value from it, please hit the like button. It really helps my channel. It has been just about a month since I put these gorgeous beauties into the solution undergoing the long method of soil to Leca transition. Let's see what's happened. We'll take a look at the Burle Marx first. If you look at this plant, it's still looking in relatively good condition. However, there has been some leaf loss. Look at that. That one's gone. And this is one of the variegated ones not doing so well. Look at that there. This one is doing well. That one is doing well. So overall, the plant is very healthy. And you can see from there are actually some new leaves that are lining up to grow. Now, what are the roots doing? You can see that there's been quite a bit of root activity going on there. There's quite a number of water roots that have come through. So when I pull that out, take a look at this one. This one over here, this is a nice water root. That is complete water root, but you've also got appearance of secondary water roots there throughout this root here. When I bring you down here, you can see that one there as well. Gorgeous, gorgeous water root. Come on, mama. There. That is just absolutely beautiful, really long. So I'm really happy with the root system of this plant. And you can see I'm just tugging on them there. So some of those are coming off. So I definitely want to go and wash this plant and just make sure those soil roots that are now dead and sloughing off are completely removed before I transition this plant to Leca. Let's take a look at the other plant. So this one has fared really, really well. I think there's only been like one leaf that's dropped off. Otherwise, the rest of it is doing so much better. And I think probably the difference between this plant and the variegated Burle Marx is because that one is variegated. So maybe that was why. But otherwise, I'm really happy with the progress of this. And that's what those roots are doing. And you can see that there's quite a lot of water roots that have come through there as well. Water roots doing really well. Little secondary roots coming through as well. So this plant as well, when I tug on that, I've got those coming through. So I think this has worked really, really well. So in terms of how you transfer a larger plant like this one from soil to Leca, I would definitely highly recommend going through the long method of transition. That just gives the plant a lot more time to get used to the change. And you've got your water roots coming through, and the soil roots that are going to die do get a chance to slough off while the plant is creating the new roots. So before you move it from the solution to Leca, just give that a wash. Those dead and dying roots will come off, and then you can put that in Leca. So I'll take these two babies, take them outside, give them a wash, and I'll be right back. This is where we're at with the Burle Marx. And that's how much roots I've got left. And I know those roots will do well. Those scraggly leaves that were on their way out, those are now gone. And that's the plant that I'm now going to be working with. This is the other plant here. So I've gotten rid of some of the roots, but take a look at this one. I mean, there's just no need to keep that around. So I'm going to be cutting some of the roots of this plant. So I'll bring you down to my mat and I'll show you how I do that. I've got my sterilized scissors here and I'm just looking for roots that are just not up to the business. Like this one, when it gets to this part here, it's sloughing off. So I'm just gonna cut that. That's that one there. I just don't need that to be doing that in my plant. Look at this one as well. That's looking a bit sus. So I'm just going to get to the point where the root is looking healthy, and that's where I'll make the cut and get rid of that. Same thing with this one. Just get rid of that. Oh, this is looking a bit sus here. So that's got to go too. It's quite woody, some of these. This one is good, so I'm going to leave that. It's even got a water root at the bottom there, so I'm going to leave that. This one looks good. This one, highly sus. That's got to go. So anything really that is sus, just got to go. And of course, you know by sus, I mean suspicious. Okay, so that is what I've got there. Those are my roots. So today I'm going to finally pot these two babies up in Leca. And of course, these gorgeous beauties do so well on a moss pole. So I'm going to pot them up in Leca in a 14 centimeter pot. and I've got some moss poles for them. This is a moss pole that I made earlier. I really like it. I really like this one. I think it's like one of my best yet. One of the things I love about making moss poles, I know there's a lot of stuff that gets thrown out about moss poles and why it's so bad and why you want to buy moss poles. There's all sorts of moss poles that people are making out there. I'm looking at you, kill that plant, Lee. And all sorts of other commercially available moss poles. What I love about making your own moss poles is that you can be versatile. You can change a moss pole to be anything you want it to be, depending on the plant that you're potting up. So these particular plants, I don't want a big moss pole like the ones I've got behind me, you know, a kind of moss pole that I make for a pothos plant, for example. I just want these to be able to latch onto the moss pole, to give a little bit of support, to give some structure to the plant, but also just to give a little bit of doing what a moss pole does and just provide some nutrition for the area roots where it needs it. So I've made this moss pole. It's a plastic sheet back moss pole, exactly like the ones I've shown in my earlier videos. And if you haven't seen how I make one of these, just click on the link above and that'll take you straight to it. But what I've done with this is it's quite shallow. It's quite small. It's not as deep or as thick as what that, you know, other moss poles that I've made in the past. And that's because I want these plants to sing. When I put the plant on the moss pole and it starts to grow, I want those roots to, you know, be doing the talking and not have a great giant moss pole in the middle of it. I did think about using a wooden stake to do that, but, you know, I always kind of revert to moss poles because moss poles are my thing. So that's what we're doing. So I've got two of these. I'm initially going to attach the plant to the moss pole and then pot them up because it's easier to do it that way. We'll start with my burl marks, and you can see this is where area roots are coming from. So I want this to be the back of my plant, and that's going to be the front, which works well because I can just do that. So that's going to be where my plant is going to be in the pot, and I'll grab my Velcro plant tie and just secure the plant to that. So soft portion of the plant tie to the plant, and away we go. Okay, that there is my burl marks all attached to my lovely moss pole. Next one. So that will go there. Now this plant has been doing all sorts of things. I tried to tame it, but it's just going in every direction. So I will see, that's how that goes. So try not to get the leaves when you're doing this. You know, the petioles. Try not to nip the petioles. So trying to make sure you've just got the stem. I like that. I think that looks good. I think that is secure. All right. Those are my two plants secured to the moss poles. They're looking good. And I'm going to pot them up in their pots with leca. Got my 14 centimeter pot. Put a little bit of leca in there. Grab my plant and remembering to just bend that there a little bit. Just so that can sit nicely in my pot. Got my plant sitting there, and I fill that up with leca. Making sure that the leca is in at the back, and that helps stabilize the plant. So once that leca at the back goes in, that's it. That plant is pretty stable. Yeah, maybe I should do a better job of putting the leca in the pot. Giving that a little shake. And there we go. That is plant number 1 in its pot. On to plant number 2. And that is there. And I'll just put more leca in the pot. Making sure you've got leca in at the back as well. So we now have our 2 plants potted up. That one, how glorious does that look? Look at the back. That just looks absolutely fantastic, as neat as, and look at the front. So when this plant really starts to grow, what's going to come through is just the gorgeous variegation, and that plant just doing its thing and not having a very intrusive moss pole slap bang in the middle. That's looking really, really good. And that's my other one here that is looking fabulous as well. And I love how the orange, the distinctive orange petioles are matching with the color of the moss. It's beautiful. It just looks absolutely beautiful. I love it. So there you have it. That is how I have been able to transition these relatively bigger plants from soil to leca successfully. And the next time you see these guys, they will be that big. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you. Bye.